Greetings Exiles and welcome to one of the strongest spells to be ever released on this channel. It is my Bloodmage Reap caster. The skill in question here conjures a deadly scythe with a huge base damage at the cost of some of your life. It is point targeted like Nova skills when combined with Astral Projector. This means that we can utilize some very unique support gems which will allow us to triple or even quadruple our damage, and we are going to talk about these in a later segment of this video. Now, just be warned that we are using a headhunter here. Not because we need it, but because it is probably one of the best quality of life upgrades for a build like this one. It also provides us with much needed stats like dexterity and strength, which is required to run some of our gems. But ultimately it plays no role in scaling our single target damage, which is the most important thing that we have here. But with that being said, let us jump right into this build guide. As a start, if you guys know me well, then you will know that I like to play spells with power charge stacking builds. Mainly because stacking power charges is arguably the easiest thing you can do in order to get a double million digit damage in this game. But aside from power charges, we are also on low life, which will allow us to get 30% more damage from Pain Atonement. We do that by reserving half of our life with something like Arrogance Support Gem. Now, I know that cutting our life in half is not good, but it's not going to be terrible here because we are running Petrified Blood, which is going to increase our effective HP pool. We are going to get into gems in more details later, but for now, let's talk about the most important thing, which is our Ascendancy. Since we are stacking power charges, we have two main contender Ascendancies for this build, either an Assassin or an Occultist. Assassin will give you more damage in the form of capping your crit chance without any investment, and Occultist will give you increased AoE, better clearing, and stun immunity. If you are on a budget, go with the Occultist Ascendancy. But if you are trying to break single targets damage records, then go with Assassin, like what I have done over here. So first we go with Unstable Infusion. This node is basically +1 power charge and the main reason why the Assassin Ascendancy exists in the first place. From here we take Deadly Infusion. This one scales crit multi with each power charge, in addition to giving you up to 1.5% base crit to everything at maximum power charges. This is basically a free Assassin's Mark curse all the time. Next we take Opportunistic for its massive damage bonus against single targets. And finally, Mistwalker for its powerful elusive effect. If you didn't get it already, this generic Ascendancy is the same one I have used in my previous Blade Vortex build. I was basically looking for a new physical skill to take the crown as the best physical skill in the game, and I think I managed to find one. Anyway, this is how our passive tree should look like. We pick up every single power charge node available on the passive tree. In addition, we take some generic physical damage nodes, life nodes, AoE nodes, and power charge scaling nodes. Now once you are high level enough, get yourself one large cluster jewel with physical notables like Master the Fundamentals, Exploit Weakness, and Force Multiplier, or really any other powerful physical notable you can find. Next you should branch off to medium cluster jewels with the following notables: Vast Power and Towering Threat. And that was basically it for your passive tree. Alright, let's talk about some items. As a start, we are dual wielding Void Batteries, which is a no-brainer for any power charge stacking build. Crafting better rare ones is going to be somewhat impossible, so just forget about that. Next we have Crown of the Inward Eye with +1 power charge corruption. You could potentially get more out of a rare helm with tier 1 life, +1 power charge, crit multi, and maybe even some resistances. Our next item is Hands of the High Templar with vulnerability curse on hit. I paid like 5 exalts for it and it's pretty much best in slot option. Our next item is a Precursor Emblem with +1 power charge. This ring can get really expensive with that mod in particular, and since we are using 2 of them, you should only get one with +1 power charge, which by the way should be already enough to cap your crit chance anyway. But aside from this mod, getting other stuff like increased crit multi, attack and cast speed, and movement speed per each power charge can be just as good. Our next item is a rare amulet with lots of life regen, +1 to the level of all the strength skill gems, and 6% increased damage per power charge. After that you can just multi-mod into life and +1 to minimum frenzy charges and call it a day. Don't forget to anoint Vanquisher on your amulet for that massive 4-second damage boost right after hitting an enemy for the first time. Our next item is Headhunter. As I have said at the start of the video, this item is the biggest quality of life upgrade for this build, in many different ways actually. Now please understand that it is not required for mapping, but it's nice to have due to its basic stats that we need to be able to use some of our gems and items. Anyway, next we have a pair of boots with both elevated onslaught and elevated tailwind. Now you can just use the regular mods instead of elevated ones and you will be just fine. From here you just need life and as much movement speed as possible. Now if you are on a budget you won't be able to afford all of these mods at the same time. Thus you can compromise by not having life or getting a lower movement speed roll in order to be able to afford something like this at lower price. Last but not least we have an exploded chest with lots of life and additional base crit to spells. If you get the elevated version you will be able to cap yourself exactly without having to invest into any crit chance node on the passive tree. From here getting as many resistances as possible is just optional. Just don't forget to craft 10% of your life is gained as maximum energy shield for that additional defensive layer. And that was basically it for our items. Now let's talk about some gems. First and foremost, our main 6 link contains Reap, Awakened Brutality, Awakened Spell Cascade, Awakened Unleash, Intensify, and Power Charge on Crit. With both Awakened Spell Cascade and Awakened Unleash, you will be able to hit your enemies around 25 times with a single press of a key. Just remember that being an assassin and having power charge support gem in your main 6 link doesn't mean that you will start the fight with your maximum power charges. But anyway, our next gem setup contains Pride, Petrified Blood, Vitality, and level 4 Enlighten. You might want to dial down the level of your Vitality gem depending on your remaining mana. Our next gem setup contains Steel Skin, Dash, Arcane Surge, and War Banner. Make sure to set your Steel Skin hotkey to be your left mouse button for 100% uptime on Arcane Surge. The skill will be automatically activated every time you are moving and when it's not on cooldown, because it's assigned to the same button that you use for moving. Our last gem setup contains Herald of Purity, Arrogant Support, and any golem of your choice. I'm using Lightning Golem, but you should probably use the stone one for its additional life regen. Just remember that by linking Herald of Purity with Arrogant Support, you will reserve 50% of your life at level 21 Arrogant Support. And that's exactly the threshold of being on low life. For that, make sure that you do not invest into any additional reservation reduction, otherwise you will not count as on low life. But with that being said, we are basically done with our gems. Now let's talk about some jewels. As a start, we have a Watcher's Eye with 12% chance to deal double damage while affected by Pride. Now I made the big mistake and didn't get the life leech while affected by Vitality. This is very important against single targets when you are spamming your Reap, because you are expending life in order to activate the skill, and without leech you won't be able to activate it all the time. So make sure you get life leech while affected by Vitality, alongside chance to deal double damage while affected by Pride. But aside from Watcher's Eye, we have a Militant Faith Timeless Jewel that specifically mentions High Templar Dominus. This one will make it so that it will convert all nearby keystones into Inner Conviction, which basically gives you 3% more spell damage for every power charge, which is essential for a build like this one. But aside from unique jewels, any remaining socket you have should be invested with a normal rare jewel like this one. You should prioritize life first, and then increase physical damage, crit multi, or crit chance if you are still not capped yet. You should also invest into elemental resistances if you still need them. Which, by the way, helping the Bandit Lord, Elira is going to help you cap your elemental resistances, which should preferably stop at 100%, because Elemental Weakness Curse can no longer be mitigated with flasks as of 3.15 expansion, so you should always be overcapped on your elemental resistances just in case. And yeah, that was basically it for our strongest Blood Mage build guide for 3.15. If you guys have enjoyed this video, then you know what to do. Maybe like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future build guides like this one. My name is Phoenix and I will see you all in the next video.